Some young players came to play during the Prospects Challenge, but yet some people on social media weren't satisfied with their overall efforts, whereas some other people on social media were in fact pushing for this player to be signed. And also, Timo Meier had a big announcement, but don't worry, he is just going from 96 to 28. We have a lot to talk about in today's episode of Locked On Devils. Buckle up, everybody.
You're Locked On Devils, your daily podcast on the New Jersey Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, this is Bryce Salvador, and you're Locked On Devils with Trey Matthews.
Scores! Oh, Steven stepped up, nailed it. Brodor's got the puck. What a shot. The Devils win the Stanley Cup.
Alrighty now, what is up, New Jersey? Welcome back to the Locked On Devils podcast here on Locked On Network. I'm your host, college hockey play-by-play announcer, Devils Wire for Pucks and Pitchforks, and also part-time credential media member, Trey Matthews. My apologies for not posting an episode yesterday. Unfortunately, I was under the weather, so I wasn't in the best of shape to record an episode. But like always, I will make it up to you guys. And speaking of episodes, I am back to posting 5 episodes per week because the season is right around the corner and we are getting closer to the end of the offseason, and I am looking forward to it. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about a couple prospects that impressed, particularly Shimon Nemec, and a controversial tweet that made its way on the X app. And then we'll talk about Riley Mercer, the younger brother of Dawson Mercer, and should the Devils minor league system sign him to a contract. And then to round it all off in segment 3, we're going to talk about a jersey number switch for Timo Meier because he will no longer wear 96. He is going back to his roots and putting on number 28 come next season. So let's start with Shimon Nemec and his true impact for the Devils and my expectations for him going forward. Now, like I just said moments ago, there was a controversial tweet put out by a group called Big Head Hockey. They have about 19.3 thousand followers on the X app, and they said that they expected more from Shimon Nemec during the Prospects Challenge. They put up his stats. They said he had like 0 goals, 2 assists. He had a negative plus minus, and they said that's the best that the second overall pick for the Devils can do. And basically that sparked huge controversy because you had people, a part of the Devils discourse, including myself, responding to them and saying, you clearly did not watch the games. And I think James Nichols also got into the mix. James Nichols is a friend of the show, and he's a writer for New Jersey Hockey Now. And he said that Nemec was playing chess while the rest of the players were playing checkers. He was a man amongst boys. And basically, like I said, it was just absolute bedlam to the point where Big Head Hockey had to delete the tweet. And I searched high and low for the now since deleted tweet, but I couldn't find it. So note to self, when I see a controversial tweet, screenshot it so I could share it on the episode. But nonetheless, it doesn't take away from the fact that they literally just went out and put out a misleading stat. Because here's the thing when I try to assess defensemen and their overall production. So let's use another example. Let's use someone like Kevin Ball. So when I assess Kevin Ball, I don't just look at his points because I know we're in the modern NHL and basically the whole narrative is that in order to be a good defenseman, you got to put up a lot of points. Well, Nemec is capable of doing so, and we'll talk about that momentarily. But one of the things I look for is like defensive point shares, hits, blocks, and some other advanced analytics just to prove that this player is in fact a good player, and Shimon Nemec is no different. Now, here's the thing. It's like I just said moments ago, we're in a day and age where the bigger the stats you have as a defenseman, you're looked more favorably. So look at someone like Erik Karlsson for the Pittsburgh Penguins, a multi-time Norris Trophy winner. He obviously just shattered the voting, and he was going to win the Norris Trophy just this past season. No ands, ifs, or buts about it. But the fact of the matter is that when it comes to the actual defense, Karlsson is a turnover machine. So that's where I stand with this overall tweet from Big Head Hockey. It was very misleading. They didn't obviously watch the games, and they're looking at it from a basic statistical standpoint, which was not okay to do. And that's where I took exception to it because I'm like, well, if Shimon Nemec wasn't good defensively and putting up those kind of numbers, then I would see your point. But that's not the case. In fact, in game 1, against the Ottawa Senators, the Devils only scored 2 goals. But who was responsible for assisting on both those goals? It was Shimon Nemec. So he played in 2 of the 3 Prospect Challenge games, and he walked away with 2 points in 2 games. That is phenomenal. And when looking at what he did in Utica just this past season, it was sort of a transitional period to North American style hockey for Nemec because he appeared in 65 games. He had 12 goals, 22 assists for a grand total of 34 points. So once again, Nemec is capable of putting up some big offensive numbers, and I think he did just fine in the Prospects Challenge. So one of the things that I noticed from Nemec is, once again, he was a man amongst boys. He was asserting himself on the blue line. He was playing physical. He was skating really well. And similar to what Nichols alluded to, which I believe he put out on the X app, which was Nemec was just playing chess while the rest of the players were playing checkers. And another thing I want to add to Big Head Hockey and their controversial take from a couple days ago is that I know the Devils are big on their defensive prospects who are capable of putting up big offensive numbers. So example 1 would be Luke Hughes, and example number 2 would be Seamus Casey. And they're expecting the same thing from Shimon Nemec. Well, this sort of transitions into my next talking point in this segment, which is, what are my expectations for Shimon Nemec? Like, where do I foresee him sliding into this Devils roster? Because it is going to be a talking point going into the main training camp and preseason and basically determining, will Nemec make the opening night roster? Well, I think the initial plan for the Devils was to develop Luke Hughes and Shimon Nemec side by side, because Hughes is a left-handed defenseman, Nemec is a right-handed defenseman. But when we're talking about like offense and who would be the better offensive productive player on the defensive side of things, obviously that's going to go towards Luke Hughes. And Shimon Nemec, while he's capable of putting up some big offensive numbers, he would focus more on the defense because, let's face it, Hughes is better in that sort of category. So I think that was the initial plan. But obviously, since Luke Hughes is essentially taking the spot of Ryan Graves, he most likely will be paired alongside John Marino. So if Shimon Nemec were to make the opening night roster, he would be competing with Colin Miller, Brendan Smith for that bottom 4 defensive role alongside with Kevin Ball. So the plans have changed a little bit for the Devils in that sort of aspect. But when focusing more on Shimon Nemec's offensive game, will he be given a big opportunity to showcase it compared to Luke Hughes? The answer to that, in my opinion, is going to be no, because I talked about it like a few episodes ago, which was the offense is going to have to generate from someone other than Dougie Hamilton on the Devils' blue line, and that's going to go to Luke Hughes more times than not. Now, I'm not saying that Nemec will be a total like egg in that sort of category. I don't expect that at all, but in terms of just being the go-to guy in terms of offensive production, that's not really going to be his role. His role is going to be like someone who is capable of putting up offensive numbers, but he is more going to focus on like being a decent two-way player, similar to what Damon Severson was last year, or what I'm projecting for Colin Miller to be. So, and also the Devils do have their hands tied in terms of developing their young defensemen, including Kevin Ball and Luke Hughes. So honestly, there's no rush for Shimon Nemec to make the opening night roster. In fact, I am perfectly fine with him marinating in Utica just a bit more, because obviously the Devils got Colin Miller over the offseason, so that's going to be Nemec's main competition. And remember, Miller played top-line defensive minutes with the Dallas Stars just this past season, so that would be sort of a tall order for Nemec. I'm not saying he's not up for it, but I'm just saying, like, there's no rush, and Miller's only here for, like, one more season, so worst comes to worst, that role for Nemec will continue to become bigger and bigger and bigger come next season. Or maybe Colin Miller won't be all that good, and then you have no choice but to insert Nemec, because you definitely don't want to put Brendan Smith in too many games this season. But that's my thing for Shimon Nemec. I do not agree with Big Head Hockey's take on his overall production. I think he performed just well in the Prospects Challenge. I wish that they would look at his defensive point shares, his hits, his blocks, some more advanced analytics, or just watch it with your own two eyes, because obviously you were just scoreboard watching. So that's my thing. Nemec performed just fine. He was making the smart plays. He was keeping possessions alive for the Devils. He used his stick really well. He was skating really well. He was asserting himself really well, and he definitely deserved to be one of the leaders for the prospects in this prospect challenge. So that's my thing. Shimon Nemeth is going to be just fine. I don't know why we're having this discussion, but obviously some people just needed to learn. And then Big Head Hockey ended up putting out a statement saying that their tweet really didn't reflect what they were trying to portray. Well, honestly, I don't care what you're trying to portray. My thing is Nemeth is going to be just fine, even if he's not putting up the same offensive numbers as Luke Hughes. If Nemeth is playing well defensively and can be that two-way player that we're projecting him to be, I think the Devils got a steal, even though they had the second overall pick when they selected the Mets. I still think the Devils got a steal because obviously who was available to be selected? Logan Cooley or Shane Wright and a few others, because Wright was projected to go I think first overall at one point, and then Logan Cooley was projected to go to Coyotes at number 3. And once Uri Slafkovsky was selected number 1, that opened up the floodgates and the potential opportunity for the Devils to select either Cooley or Wright, but they stuck with their gut and they drafted what they needed, not exactly who was the best player available. So that's why I think it's sort of a quote-unquote steal for the Devils. But at the end of the day, will Nemeth make the opening night roster? I really don't know, but he's heading in the right direction. So he had a good showing in the Prospects Challenge. Now we got to see what he does in training camp, preseason, and then we'll get a good gauge as to where his development is at. But if he has to stay in Utica a little bit longer, no harm, no foul, because last year was his first season playing North American style hockey. So maybe he just needs a little bit more time because, like I said, last season, transitional period, but now he might be ready for that bigger role. Okay, so let's talk about another prospect that caught headlines amongst the Devils discourse, and that is Dawson Mercer's little brother, Riley. And no, Riley is not a forward similar to his brother, but he is a goalie. So I think Mercer really came into the light for the Devils fans in Game 3 against the Boston Bruins, which was on Monday, in which he saw 28 shots. He was able to stop 26 of them. He had a save percentage of .928, and the Devils won their only game of Prospects Challenge in that matchup by a score of 4-2 against the Bruins once more. So a lot of people were just like, you know what? Mercer is looking really good, and maybe he's not an elite winger like his brother, but he could definitely be an option for some of the Devils' minor league affiliates. So obviously we would talk about Utica for the AHL or Adirondack for the ECHL. But here's something I did during development camp, which was I told the prospects scouting report, and then I played a soundbite so that way you could get to learn that prospect a little bit better. Now, obviously, I was not in attendance for Prospects Challenge because I'm on the other side of the country for the time being. But here's what Mercer did during his stint with the QMJHL just this past season, playing for the Drummondville Voltigeurs. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I don't really know my French soldier definitions, so it goes to show you how much I paid attention in history class. But anyway, while playing in the QMJHL just this past season, he appeared in 22 games. He had a goals against average of 3.07 and a save percentage of .902, and he had one shutout to his credit. And the one thing I could say for Mercer, looking at his stats as a goalie, it seems like he has gotten better and better and better, because during the 2020-2021 season with Drummondville, once again, he appeared in 4 games. He had a goals against average of 3.08, had a save percentage of .867. Then just last year, he appeared in 29 games. The goals against average was a little bit higher, but still, I think it translates a little better knowing that he appeared in more games. I don't know. Math was never my strong suit. He had a goals against average of 3.62 and a save percentage of .886 and 2 shutouts. And once again, just this past season, he had a record of 13-7-1. So there's your brief scouting report on Mercer and what you need to know of him as a goalie. But courtesy of the Devils' social media team, Amanda Stein was able to do a one-on-one interview with him post-game. So I'm going to play that clip. It's about a 3-minute clip. So I want you guys to get to know Mercer a little bit better. So take it away, and I'll see you guys shortly.
Riley, you and your family have become accustomed to this organization, but what was it like for you to be part of this camp and be able to play today?
Yeah, it was a great experience, obviously, coming here last year and playing against the Devils, so it was nice to be on the Devils side this time. I watched them a lot last year and going to watch them a lot this year with Dawson there, so it was nice to get out there, get the opportunity, and try to make the most of it.
What did it mean to you when you were invited to this camp?
Yeah, it meant a lot. Obviously, Jersey, like I said, watching them so much, Dawson's there. You know, for them to give me the opportunity to come in and try to show myself, not just to them, but other teams that's at this tournament watching games. So grateful for the opportunity and try to make the most of it.
What's probably one of the most important things you've learned from this experience being on the inside of the organization?
Yeah, I think just how everything works, how professional the organization is, even with the AHL coaches. I'm sure the NHL is another step too, but just to come in and be around the guys, knows how the pro game works. It's great to come in and experience.
What'd you like from your game today, and obviously posting that victory, huge for everybody?
Yeah, it's huge to get the, I guess, kind of first preseason win for the Devils here. But I liked my game a lot. I thought I competed well. Obviously, not every game is going to be perfect, but every time you go in the net, you try to give your team a chance to win. I think I done that on a few occasions here today, so I was pleased with my effort.
How challenging can it be for a player like yourself, who you were saying, last year you were here with Montreal, you went to Ottawa's development camp. What is that like for a player?
Yeah, it's obviously a bit different, but it's nice, honestly. Being free agent, trying to make the most is what you can when you get to every organization. Try to make a lasting impact, so they remember you for who you are as a person and who you are as a player for time in the future when junior's over and teams are looking to sign and play pro. So they have a little bit of feedback on who you are as a person and player.
And what was it like working with Brian Eklund this weekend?
Yeah, Brian's great. Yeah. I love working with Brian. I think anytime you get the chance to work with a different goalie coach, try to take as much as you can from him, be like a sponge, and try to just learn and take things from him that he thinks you can bring into your game and make you a better goalie. So when I go back to junior, I look at taking a few things from that Ek gave me and putting those into my game, make me better. Is
there anything in particular you can share that he sort of showed you?
Yeah, well, I think just obviously the game's quicker. He wants me to travel on my feet as fast as possible, try to stay my stance well, and lateral movements. I think those are some key points in traffic. A few times just like using your body instead of your hands, trying to make yourself big as possible. But I think those are a few things we talked about over the week and try to work on.
So would I be interested in either Utica or Adirondack signing Mercer? Honestly, I see no issue in that, because the one thing that I think the Devils sort of need at this time, at least for their AHL and ECHL program, is that they need a little bit more depth at the goalie position, because we were literally just having a discussion just a few episodes ago is who's going to be the third string goalie for the Devils. Is it going to be Keith Kincaid while he's playing with the Chicago Wolves, a now independent AHL team? Or is it going to be Eric Shalgren, the former Toronto Maple Leaf, who's going to be playing in the AHL and possibly filling in the role for the injured Nico Dawes? Quite honestly, I don't see any harm or foul of signing Mercer to a contract. And if he performs well in either the ECHL or the AHL, it's just another goalie option that the Devils can have once they decide to actually sign him to a contract. Because, if Utica or Adirondack was to sign him to a contract, he would have to remain there. But we know the gist of it. We know what the contract situation would look like. But nonetheless, I think it would give the Devils some more options at the goalie position. And if he develops in the correct way, and if he shows improvement like I alluded to just moments ago, I don't see why not. So, yeah, sign Mercer. I don't care if it's ECHL or AHL. Let's get Riley in the same organization as his brother one day. So I'm all for it, because, once again, Devils need to develop some more goalies so that way they have more options to turn to if they need a third-string goalie. Now with Mackenzie Blackwood gone, that sort of leaves a hole that needs to be filled for the Devils. Now, before we talk about Timo Meier and his big announcement, I want to tell you guys about FanDuel, because I want you guys to win some extra money. So snap into this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in the action. The app is easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over and unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. So FanDuel is the official partner of the NFL. Visit FanDuel.com, and you know what? Why don't you bet on the New Jersey Devils money line, props, whatever the case might be? Please remember to do so responsibly. And now, let me tell you guys about Jase Medical. So the Jase case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use. All it takes to get a Jase case is to fill out a simple online form, and in some cases, jump on a quick call with one of our board-certified physicians. Get ongoing care from a physician of any treatment-related questions. Doctor created, doctor recommended. Jase Medical is simple. Once again, you go online, fill out a form, and then you get a prescription, life-saving medications right to your door. The Jase case gives you peace of mind, so that way you're not just hoping that you have access to medication in case of emergency. Jase Medical makes you have the medication in hand. Save more than $360 by getting these life-saving antibiotics with Jase Medical, plus an additional $20 off by using the code LOCKEDON at checkout on jasemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. All right, let's talk about Timo Meier. So a few months back, when it was announced that Timo Meier had signed a lengthy extension with the Devils organization, one of the questions that Ryan Novozinski of NJ.com asked Timo was like, would he switch back from 96 to 28? Because obviously during his entire tenure playing in the NHL, Meier was always 28, but then once he got traded to the Devils, longtime Devils player Damon Severson already had the number, so Meier had to switch to 96. In fact, he was the first Devils player in franchise history to wear 96. So a lot of people were wondering, now that Damon Severson is gone, would Meier switch back to 28? And I think in response to Novo's question, Meier said he would ponder it. He would just see like what the best possible outcome is. And ultimately, just a few days later, it was made official. So Meier released a statement. He said, the way I came here last year, 28 was Damon Severson's. And, you know, the situation with the contract and all that, I didn't really know where his future was. Tom said, choose wisely with your number when he traded for me, because you're going to have it for a long time. So, oh boy, Fitzy just planting that seed inside of Meier's head already, just saying like, you're going to be here long term. So Meier continued to say, I talked to my friends and family and was like, what do you guys think? And most of the people said 28. They think 96 looks better on me, but 28 for me is more what I've done for me in the NHL. It's my number. It's kind of brought me luck. So what are my thoughts on Timo Meier switching to 28? Honestly, I would have to agree with him. I thought 96 was a really good looking number on him, because it was just cool, because once again, there had never been a Devils player that wore 96. So I thought it was cool. I thought it was different. Obviously, Meier was born in 1996, and 28, I don't know. It's already been done for the Devils organization, but if it's any consolation, Meier's going to be the 28th player in Devils history to wear 28. So, yeah, I guess hopefully that's a sign. We'll see if he's going to be the last player to wear 28, because if his career takes off, if he's able to play a big, sizable role on the Devils roster for years to come, then maybe 28 will be in the rafters alongside with Hischier and Hughes. But that's yet to be seen. But obviously, I thought it was cool. I thought 96 was cool, but 28 returns from Damon Severson to Timo Meier. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section about Shimon Nemeth and his overall production during the Prospects Challenge. And what are your personal expectations for Nemeth? And then also, what are your opinions on Riley Mercer? Are you going to jump on the bandwagon, or do you think it was all hype and hoopla? Because I'll just say one thing. If Mercer was able to handle himself against other NHL prospects, then why not sign him to an ECHL or an AHL deal? And then for Timo Meier, which one did you prefer, 28 or 96? Also worth mentioning that if you wear 96 and if you go to the Devils team store for the first couple weeks of the season, you will get a 28% discount courtesy of Timo Meier. But honestly, 96, that might be a cool novelty jersey. So it's the first jersey that Timo Meier wore, or Devils legend Timo Meier when he first got to New Jersey. Just trying to cheer you guys up a little bit. But anyway, as for today's episode, that's all the time I have for you. So continue to stay safe. Have a wonderful day, New Jersey. Go Devils. I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Thanks for listening once again.